Hey everyone, welcome to this week's episode of Women Serve 2. Today we have Hillary Collandra with us. She is a U.S. Navy Lieutenant Commander, founder of Warvinas, and an advocate of the women who serve on the front lines of our nation's military and industrial workforce. After more than 15 years leading sailors, she recognized that women were still adapting to equipment and apparel never truly designed for them. So therefore, she created her company, which we will talk about, creating purpose-built gear while building a community that empowers women to lead with confidence. Through her leadership, writing, and entrepreneurship, Hillary is working to ensure the next generation of women doesn't have to choose between serving their country and being seen. So, Hillary, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm
So,
excited.
I am too, because I also feel like there is a huge problem that you solved, right? The military was built for men, not women. And a lot of the equipment and apparel and stuff were built for men and not women. So I'm so excited that you solved that problem. And I can't wait to talk about that and kind of what led you to that. But first, let's talk about your military experience. Are you still serving? And
Oh,
you are. Okay, so let's talk about when you joined and then kind of that journey and essentially your whole military career.
of course. I actually got my commission through the ROTC program or ROTC back in 2010. So I've been serving for a little over 15 years, almost 16 years now. I am a surface warfare officer by trade. So we go out on the ships, and I've spent probably out of the 15 years, a total of 7 years out at sea with all the deployments and workups. Yeah, I've served in navigation, operations. I've also been a weapons officer and strategic officer. I am an alumni of the Naval War College, and I currently get the beautiful opportunity of leading Pacific Fleet. They have a fleet command center, so I'm the director of the watch floor. So we oversee everything from Colorado to India. It's a great opportunity.
Wow, that's like
Yeah.
super impressive. So, do you plan?
Lots of work.
I could only imagine. So, what made you decide to choose that path?
Well, I think I just stumbled into it, or the universe helped guide me. I was only planning to do my 4 years of service. That way I could go to the State Department, and my end goal was to be part of the United Nations and make politics work so that we don't lose more service members. I had grown up watching the aftermath of September 11th and the war in Afghanistan, Iraq. And my heart kept breaking seeing a lot of people perish for that. And I was like, how could I get into politics? Well, I'm from a lower middle class family. And I was like, well, let me join the military, get some, what we call reps and sets in, get some training, get some, foundation under your feet. But I think the first year I joined the military, I realized how much I hated politics. And so that was no longer an option for me. And I really just enjoyed leading sailors, taking care of, our military members. And I think that's at the heart or the crux of why I started Warvinas, was to take care of people.
So, you kind of said something that also resonated with me was I joined only for 4 years. My path was actually I wanted to get into politics, but looking back at it now, I was like, yeah, I don't know what I was thinking. Like I thought I was
Yeah.
going to do 4 years, get out, go to law school, which did not happen, and then get into politics. And so I kind of understand like where you're coming from, because it's something
That's
that
awesome.
that's something that I resonate with. But one of the reasons why I got out was because of horrible leadership. Essentially, like favoritism was really big, or because if I did a good job, they would put more work on me because they knew I would get done and wouldn't take care of me. So, with that being said, and since because you are still in, what does caring as a leader, especially going through the ranks, actually mean in a military environment?
Of course. So I'm laughing not because it's at you at all. I'm laughing because everything you just said there resonated with me too, and still does. I'm still active duty. I would tell you it was a struggle very early on in the career. I would say maybe, your O1, O2 phase, you're still trying to get qualified and learn everything about your community, get some like, qualifications under your belt. And then, I got the opportunity to go to Naval War College. I decided to stay, even though in my heart, I was like, oh, this is going to be really tough because of all the things that you had mentioned. And really, I had to go through that experience and work through it because at the end of the day, I still had terrible leaders and I still have a lot of work put on me. But I also had a lot of great leaders that if I would have left early, I wouldn't have had the opportunity to meet. Not only that, I got to push the boundaries of how great a leader I could be, regardless of the, adversary that you feel. I would tell you that I think it was part of the growing experience to be more comfortable as a leader by knowing, listen, like I may not be the favored one, I may be the overtasked one, maybe overlooked, but right now my reward is seeing my sailors flourish. We accomplished our missions on time. I didn't, going through it, you could say, oh, that's my reward, but it doesn't feel like it, and it's not until you have a decent amount of years under your belt that you can look back and be like, actually, like, it was a terrible experience with such and such leaders, but I learned what not to do. I also got to sharpen my own knife, which is what I regard as my leadership. I got to become a better leader, how to foresee things that may, become contentious later on, how to work through conflict, resolving. It was not easy, and I don't say it with a light heart. Every day I'm still in right now. There's things that come up that I never even saw, what's going to happen. I am so thankful because at the end of the day, I have to remember this is my experience. None of those people matter when I leave because, everyone comes into the world alone and you exit the world alone. So my philosophy is, what am I going to get out of it as a leader? Did I grow through the challenges? Without any hard situations, there's not really an opportunity to grow.
One thing, when I stepped into like my leadership role, I came out as an E5. So I was on like the enlisted side going into like the
Yeah.
staff sergeant. And one of the things that I took away was from bad leadership was I know what not to do. But you mentioned that you had a lot of good leaders. So can you like kind of share a moment where one of the leaders, like just like the simple act of care, like changed your experience and performance and made you a better leader? And why is it so important that we essentially take care of our airmen and our sailors?
Man, there's so many answers to that. So I think the biggest one that comes to mind right now is advocacy. Having the leaders, especially if they are not even in your own chain of command, to stand up next to you and verify, no, she is correct. We do, this will become a problem if we ignore it, because that builds confidence, right? If you keep getting no's everywhere that you go when you're trying to solve a problem, you're going to start feeling like, am I crazy? Am I not making the right decision? A lot of what I faced, during my earlier years was high tempo environments, constantly being deployed, missions left and right, not a lot of people to complete the missions. And so tackling extra missions or tackling the extra care of sailors was a lot on, I would say, the lower priority list of leaders because they're just trying to get through the next day, right? And so when I look at that through that lens, I have a little bit more empathy, right? For me, though, there's like this internal satiation that I get from actually helping the sailors, right? Like, even though I'm going to get tired out from it, I'd rather do the extra steps to take care of them because, one, we need buy-in, right? Your sailors, soldiers, airmen, they don't have buy-in if they know that, or they see themselves as just a cog in the machine, because that's not true, right? I can tell them to do A, and that's all they do. They just said, hey, ma'am, you just told me to do A. But if I tell them I need them to do A, but they know, like, I'm genuinely trying to complete the mission, have their best interest at heart, they're also going to get done B and C and be like, hey, ma'am, I got A done, but in order to get A, I also had to get B and C done. And so what we saw was, or what I witnessed was, my divisions or departments turning around during really difficult times. I mean, I was a department head during COVID, and I remember with all of the uncertainty, how our sailors were feeling, how their families were feeling, right? And so being able to be very transparent and sometimes saying, I don't know, I don't know when we're going to get a vaccine. I don't know when we're able to get off, but you can trust me that I'm going to tell you the first time, the first hint I get, we're going to get off. You guys will be the first to know, and you will know all the information that I'm tracking. And so that transparency led to buy-in. Also, me going above and beyond, trying to make their lives a little bit more comfortable with small morale things that are like easily achievable, but people just don't spend the time caring for them. That showed them that I'm really like there, not only being transparent, but trying to provide some level of, care for her department or her division, wherever I was. I think if you ask my sailors right now about me, we're on shore duty. They will absolutely tell you how crazy I am in a great way. I remember to check up on them and see how are they doing on their coursework and their qualifications and little things like carpentry. Some people want to do a trade outside of work. How's that going? So supporting their dreams helps them get a little bit more unit cohesion, improves readiness because they're willing to talk to me about things that they're having trouble with. Like, hey, man, we really want to get qualified here, but the schools are bogged down. So I get on the line with the schools to try to open up more classes, or we have a creative solution and we send an instructor out. So, overall, I think stewardship has a great place in the military itself. Is it easy? No, it's not. But I think if you get in the pattern early, for all of our future women that are interested in joining, if you get into the pattern early of noting or being able to just take a second of your day to say, are my people taken care of? Who is that one person that's having a struggle right now? If you get into that, you build a habit, and then by 15, 16 years, you're like, I have to do this.
So it also sounds like you're building a community, even like in the military, and I'm sure like outside as well. But like throughout your career, why is community especially important for women serving in these demanding professions?
I just had an interview with a retired colonel, Army Colonel, Ellen Herring, and it was very enlightening. She is leading a Fight to Fight documentary right now that'll be public release in Veterans Day. But just through her 40 years of service, 30 years in and 10 years out, it was very surprising to hear her say, the women's groups were around, but I didn't want to join them. And she's like, that's probably my biggest regret in my early years that I didn't. Eventually, she, decided to pay attention to the women's groups and then actually understood what it was about, and it wasn't about separation or getting one up against another community. She was like, there are inherently things that women face in the military that are unique to women. We talk about medical things. We talk about the way that we process information, the way that we can do a lot of multitasking, and how that impacts our leadership, and how do we communicate that in a inherently, male-driven organization. Where do we fit in? The great answer is, one, we 100% fit in and we actually improve the organization. But to hear her say, it was a mistake that she made not joining those women's groups early on, that resonated with me because when I was younger, I was like, why do I need to do that? I'm one of the bros, or, these are my friends, these are my brothers, like, we're fine. All of that is true. And joining an organization that's woman focused is not saying that you are not, respectful of your brothers. That's not it at all. What you are trying to do is see how I can work better with my brothers, how, we as sisters can also improve our standards so that we can, put pressure on the guys. Sometimes the guys need pressure too. It's a great system, if you think of it as a family. So I would encourage any young woman there to please, don't be shy. Reach out to women's organizations such as, Women Serves Too, because there's a lot of great information. Even if you cannot make every meeting or make every podcast, there's always going to be tidbits that will resonate with you and will improve you as a leader. And to my brothers that are out there, highly encourage you to be a part of the process. Them simply listening to these podcasts that Women Serves Too is, will help improve their understanding of some of the battles that are unspoken we deal with, layers of pressure that they don't see. It just helps you as a leader, whether you're leading men or women or a combination of both, improve.
You said so many things that
I'm sorry.
first off, no. It like resonated because I have talked to so many women that feel and struggle with identifying themselves as a veteran, and they don't know why they don't feel like their service is adequate enough. And I've had a couple episodes where women are like, you see these guys who've served just 2 years and they're wearing veteran up and down from hat to like head to toe. But you have women who struggle with saying, I'm a veteran. And so there are a lot of women that do struggle with that and trying to find that identity, because even when I started this podcast, I was talking to a fellow service member, but he was male, and he was like, I originally thought you were just going to be male bashing the whole time. And I was like, no, like that's not the point of this podcast. Like you said it yourself right here, is we go through certain experiences that men don't go through. And if they could hear like a different perspective, it could potentially ball into something greater and fix something within an organization, or more compassion. Like with my husband, and I've said this in a lot of my episodes too, is the reason why this podcast is called Women Serve Too is my husband and I met in the military, and we would hand both of our IDs together, and he would get thanked for his service and I wouldn't. He got upgraded to first class and I didn't. And I remember I was going to a job and I handed my own ID, and it was just by myself, and it says active duty, right? Like as our IDs say.
Yeah.
And she's like, your husband serves. And I was like, no, women serve too. Like, why is this so hard for people to understand that women serve too? Hence the name of this podcast. So because my husband never kind of put two and two together, and he knew my frustration and understood my frustration, he makes sure that he doesn't assume the man is the one that is serving. So I feel like these conversations are super important. And like you said, women need to connect and almost feel like they're not alone, especially in a very male dominated space.
Yeah, I think I resonate with that, just with the fact of I had my own experience. At the time we were in New York City during Fleet Week, where, we get to represent the Navy and really get a chance to say hi to, the civilian populace, in our uniform. And it's a great time. But I remember a little kid says, there's a female one too. Which one made me at the time. I was just a lieutenant, and maybe just 6-7 years in, and I was like, what do you mean? There's plenty of women, in my mind, but it was great to see that, it wasn't yet still, that had to be 2016, 2017. It still wasn't very popular concept that women are in the military, in the military, in other fields, not just our traditional, what people would think, like maybe admin or medical services, which, there's amazing things women are doing in those fields, but we're also on board ships, and we're also, on board aircrafts, and submarines now. So to see that, it really helped me realize that, one, we still have a long way to go, but what an opportunity to be the one to show that little girl that there's a different example. There's a different path. There's more freedom to what you could become.
I love that you said that, because I don't think a lot of people realize, especially women who are in the military, realize the impact that they can make on younger girls, and realizing like they can also do amazing things in a very male dominated force.
Yeah, and if that's what they want, we're not here pushing it down their throats, but we are showing, I think just American society right now that there's other paths people want to take. I love leading sailors. Would I have thought I would have loved leading sailors like when I was in high school? No, but I was going to become, I don't know, the next Taylor Swift at that moment, but it's just like in your head, you're just like, wow, there's other opportunities, and man, what a crazy experience. Now, I will tell you, it's not all rosy, it's difficult, you've experienced it. That was a little bit of a frustration point with you, not getting recognized, your dues. But that I think is part of our generation's current battleground, right? So like women that are serving and women who have served and are veterans, are experiencing, how do I move forward in this realm of, imposter syndrome? There's nothing to be. I love that you tell me that, there's vets that have served 2 years and are very proud to be a vet and will let you know it. And I'm like, you know what, if that dude is, very vocal about it, and we still, when you confront him, you're still going to thank him for his service. So what would change their mind about thanking you for your service, even if it was just 30 days you gave our country? Like, it's still something that you gave to our country, and every single person, regardless if you're male or female, deserve recognition for 30 days to, 30-year plus career. But I'm like, I think that is something our generation will have to work through. I know myself, I get I get a little nervous, when I ask for the military discount. Now it may just be the military discount, but I am very proud to say I'm on active duty, and I'll be even prouder to say I'm a veteran one day.
You mentioned imposter syndrome, and that is like such a key word. That was the word that was like coming to my mind, but didn't come there. So for people who do struggle with imposter syndrome, like what advice would you give them?
Well, I feel like an imposter saying it now, but I still experience it in other ways, right? So I think the biggest thing right now is have a little reflection on your service, right? And I know I've done great things, but it took time to do great things, right? To get qualified, to learn how to lead, to get, positional trust, from the organization. It takes time for that. So that was no problem. Where I'm experiencing imposter syndrome now is starting a business. And I think in any realm that you go to, if it's a new hobby, if it's a new, let's say I wanted to play a club sport, just getting the reps and sets in will help you get rid of the imposter syndrome, such as me being on a podcast. It's awesome, me being very nervous. And meanwhile, I'm like, why am I so nervous? My sailors would kick my ass right now and tell me, ma'am, who are you? You're acting really weird right now, because I'm loud and proud at work, because I've had those reps and sets. When it comes to social media or business stuff, I'm all like, so there has to be a proper way, and I don't know the proper way. So, but I went live last September, so almost a year now. I can tell you, I think it's surprising. I meet a lot of business owners that definitely have no experience, and they're just going full 100%. I'm over here like, if they don't feel like there's a certain structure, a certain way you have to do things, why do I feel that way? So I think just go through it and acknowledge it, will eventually go away once you start just doing your reps and sets in whatever field you want to get into, whether it's the military or whether it's, getting your doctorate degree or starting a business. I think everyone has a little hint of it. My best friend, I don't know if you want to put this in your podcast, but my best friend, she makes me crack up because she's like, I wish I had the audacity of an average male.
Man.
I'm sorry to my brothers out there, but they kind of know what I mean. We're not bashing, but it was pretty funny. And then that makes me laugh a lot. It's still hard to work through, but I think just give yourself some time, some reps. Your friends are always there to help, push you forward. And then actually, we could tie this back in. That's why you should be a part of these women's organizations.
Yeah. And I do think men tend to have a lot more confidence, or at least they portray it. Like they might be faking it till they make it, but they're doing a good job doing that.
Yeah, they are.
So I know you started your business, but you're still active duty. So, because a lot of the women that I've talked to, they get their DD 214 and then they go on to like entrepreneurship, but you're doing it while you're still active, and you are solving a problem that a lot of service women deal with in the military. So what made you realize that you needed to do this?
Honestly, like I am not a fashionista or in the fashion industry or anything like that. No, I am just a disgruntled customer. That was like, it was 2018 when I first had the idea, had nowhere, or, like it was an idea, and I was like, how is this going to come to fruition? So basically, I had signed up again or just continued my service. I was going to become a department head on one of the ships, and I go to get a refresh on all of my uniforms. And I realize I'm like, I can't find a white underneath t-shirt, it should be so simple, guys. They can get a pack of Hanes, no problem. Well, when I put it on, it doesn't match my uniform. The sleeves are too long, the neckline is so saggy, and I was like following a lot of hacks. And then that made me realize we have so many hacks in other fields. So the hack I followed was going to the little boys section of Walmart and getting a size 12 to 14 white shirt so that it would be very professional looking on me, taut to the neck, short sleeves so it wouldn't peek out of my 1950s uniform. It was designed back then, with the cap sleeves.
Yeah.
And so like, the hacks women had to deal with beforehand were either cut the sleeves, deal with the messy neckline, or guess what? You can go to Walmart and get a kids section or, a kids shirt. And I'm like, I think your title of your podcast came to mind before it was even a podcast. Women serve too. Right? Women serve too. Why don't I have these uniform items? And of course, I think uniform companies at that time could say, but it's so expensive to make something just for women's bodies, and, the small and a men's will work the same. Well, it doesn't, and women had just been silently dealing with little hacks to their uniform so that they could look professional. Think about all that time that I spent searching for a white t-shirt that I could have spent, enjoying either my time away from mission, which is rare, or focusing more on preparing for the mission. When I'm trying to find hacks for the perfect bun or hacks for shoes that are, not really provided many options. So you have to go find industry standards that fit the requirements, so that's a lot of time wasted. And so that's when I initially had the audacity to dream. And I was like, why does it have to be this way? And then I was like, well, what am I going to do? I'm just, one person, everyone else seems to be fine with it. Well, it wasn't until I think the universe started, letting me be in a leadership position that I saw it wasn't just affecting me. It was affecting a lot of women too. Whenever we had to dress up in our dress uniforms, you could see there's always a lot of immediate stress for women because we're like, does this look okay? Does this shirt feel good? Like, I want to be professional too. Whereas the men, they're like 5 minutes and then they get into their nicely designed dress uniform, that's made to make maybe a more unfit man look fit, so it's like we don't have that same benefit. So we have to go a little extra with, making shirts fit, socks fit, etc. And I was like, I was just tired of it. And it kind of broke my heart. And the more I heard younger junior officers or our enlisted, sailors complain about the same things, I'm like, why are we putting this much stress on that when we should just be focused on the mission? And also, almost 20% of the military is women right now. What are they doing? And so, I don't have the solutions for everything, like you had mentioned earlier. I'm trying. I'm in the foundational stages right now, but I have big visions for Warvinas. This is not just supposed to be for women in the military. I also have a respect for women who are in, the police, firefighting, construction. All of these industrial environments tend to neglect, I think, the hard charging women that are there. We deserve to be, one, comfortable, and two, have options. I walked into our Navy exchange probably last year, right before I launched, to see what my competition was. Well, great news, there wasn't much. There was probably a whole wall filled with about 60 different brands for boot socks. And I go to the back corner, a very small little stall where it's, boot socks for women were limited to Hanes, which is a good, quick brand, but not very durable, or a DoD sponsored brand, which we know that just does not have enough quality to really match your day to day. And so that gave me a little bit of help moving through my own imposter syndrome, knowing that at least I'm offering a product that I know is better for material wise for the body. It actually has function. I put in a compression technology in the socks for those that work 12 to 14-hour days. And I made sure like the fabric was durable. We have to go through industrial washers sometimes. So we need something that will hold up. And then also, just antimicrobial, trying to figure out when I made this, it wasn't from the mind of what's in fashion. I was like, what was a function? And I wanted to try to cover as much of the function portion as I could because it was really important to me. I wanted to make a good product.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned like the compression because when I'm standing on my feet for like 8 to 10 hours a day, like I need that compression. Like if I know I'm working and I'm being on my feet all day, I wear compression socks. So I
Yeah.
love that you're thinking about the function at task, right? Like some people don't have jobs where they're sitting the whole time and you're solving all these like little things that people don't think about too, like especially when you sweat, sometimes that gear or that uniform is super heavy and you're sweating, or like right now I'm in Texas and you step outside, you're immediately in like Satan sauna, right?
Yeah.
Like you're just dripping and that bacteria and that sweat gets into the clothes and then after a while it smells. So I love that you're adding in all of these things. With that being said, how did you choose your process? Like kind of walk us through like how you were able to have this vision and actually implement it.
But well, I mean, it took many years because I didn't know where to go. So 2020 hit, 2018, I was just becoming a brand new department head. For those that are not surface warfare officers, department head is a brutal tour. But I was definitely, I think, very open. I was listening to a lot of just things that would happen that would help reinforce, hey, my idea is actually a really good idea. So 2020 happened and I was like, well, let me try to, come up with this company now because I need it now. Then COVID happened and, the zombie apocalypse, what I thought was going to happen. It just kind of changed things. But right afterwards, this dream just didn't leave me, from 2018 to about 2023, when I started to finally figure out this dream's not leaving. It's nagging me. I need to give it attention. Like it's pissing me off, that I haven't even moved yet on it. So, really lit a fire under my ass. I was like, okay, Hillary, you need to focus here. So, I just started researching. I was like, the best thing I can do right now is pour myself into YouTube. YouTube is a great online course in anything you want to know. How to produce a product, how to even start a business, what an LLC is, how do you manage money? How do you get startup money? So I'm bootstrapping this entire thing right now. And that took time, to build up some savings, particularly just for Warvinas. But I just started to talk to people, get business coaches that were outside of my field. You could always have the friend hookup that's like, I'm a business coach, blah, blah. It's always better to go, I think, initially with someone with great reviews. You still have to do your research, but someone who's not your friend because they need to get to your pain points. And sometimes your friend will protect you, or try to pad that. And you need to strip that off right away. If you want to get to honest work really fast, you have to be honest with yourself. And I found that to be very true fast because I initially started working with one of my god sisters who was amazing, but I kept coming up with excuses and delayed products because you're comfortable. It's your, it's someone that you knew since you were little. So as soon as I switched gears and started opening up the business to other people knowing about it, I realized like, all the stuff she was saying was true. I need to get my butt in gear. And so I would tell you that starting a business is a different version of leadership growth because now you have to hold your own self accountable too. Starting off, I just did basic sketches of what I wanted. I knew I couldn't create everything I wanted to under the sun because funds were limited. So I was thinking, what are some things that women definitely need now that I can focus my energy on. So the first thing I did was the underneath shirts that we have to use under our coveralls or uniforms. And then of course, boot socks, because everyone needs boot socks in the military. And these would be the initial products that, I'm now able to showcase on the website. For all the different surfaces, we've got all the different colors. We've got various lengths of boot socks. We're still working through getting different styles of boot socks. So like, Air Force, they have to wear a certain color of boot socks, so we're still working through that. But, just having the support of women try it on and do the beta testing and give me feedback. We were able to reshape the underneath shirt. I mean, that came from scratch. The biggest thing was like sourcing material. I wanted this all to be USA made. It was important to me that it was all made in the USA. And so sourcing the material that would get knitted here in the USA is expensive, but you have a lot of control over it. So I do frequent visits over to LA. Right now I'm stationed in Hawaii, so that's not a bad journey. And yeah, I just trial and error. A lot of the designs came back and it was not what I wanted because I didn't know how to measure. I'm over here trying to measure myself, but I was never taught, so just many iterations trying to get to a good product that I'm confident enough. We'll get feedback, that's totally fine. And you should expect that. You will never have a perfect product the first time you push something out. But did it have, the quality I was looking for? I wanted a shirt that was not very thin. It has to be able to hold the day with me, sustain the day, and it also has to feel premium. And it also has to hold its shape after many washes. So we went with a organic cotton, about like 90% organic and 10% spandex, so that it would retain its shape. One, it would feel great against the skin, but it's all cotton. So that way, if you were ever in a terrible, situation with flames or anything, it's the first thing that won't melt on your body. So all of these like safety precautions is really what I tried to focus on when I made it. And I want every woman to feel like when they go in and they shop for a boot sock or a underneath shirt, one day I hope to be in the exchanges to where women will feel like they belong to. Nothing is more disappointing when you go into the uniform shop and only a little tiny slice of it is dedicated to you with tinier options. We're 20% of the military right now, and the women that are serving need to know they deserve premium materials. They deserve something that they look professional in and something that will hold the function with them. It's not just a cute downsize of a man's thing. It's not something that's prettied up in pink for me. No, I don't need that. I need to be respected as a professional, and I hope that whoever wears this knows that I respect them as a professional.
I love that you keep saying, like, we don't fit in just a men's medium because women are just not smaller men. Like, we have curves, we have a different anatomy. And I know, like, in a lot of groups that I'm a part of on, like, Facebook, I see maternity outfits being a huge, huge problem because they're either out of stock or back ordered. So we have these women wearing extra, extra large men's pants just to accommodate the stomach. So there really is a need for women specific uniforms. And
Yeah.
one thing that you said that really I love that you said a little bit back was we shouldn't be focused on this. This takes away from being mission ready. And I know with the Air Force, the Women's Initiative team did a lot of that. They would try to focus on, okay, what can we do to help make our women ready for war and not have to worry about how are we going to have periods over in the Middle East. So this really is truly a big problem. And the uniform is such a big one that could easily be solved because we always have to wear a uniform.
Yeah.
Like, it is one that needs to be addressed. So I absolutely love that you're doing this. And I feel like so many people I feel like this is just going to explode because it's such a need. It really is. With you still being active duty, how hard is it to try to be active duty and still try to grow your business?
So it is always a struggle. Love to tell you it's super easy, just time management, give you a beautiful answer here. No, it's a fucking struggle. But I think the purpose was irritating me more, getting that nagging feeling, continuously from 2018 to 2023 of I wish this product was here already for me. I wish this product was here already for the women I'm serving with, the women that I lead. I just wish the product was here already. And so I will tell you that dreams are sacrifices. Whatever you do it's not going to be so easy for you. It's hard, but I think when it's a dream, you cannot like let it go and you're willing to put in those extra hours. I mean, sometimes my days, especially because I have to work with East Coast or I'm trying to find a different vendor or I'm exploring, hey, I'd like to start with this product. What does that look like? I have to set aside time. I'm here in Hawaii right now, which I think is a blessing because of the time difference, not just because of the locality. Of course, Hawaii is a blessing, but it's a blessing in the fact that I'm able to extend my day, which, burnout happens when you do that. But sometimes I'm waking up at 4 to do a 4:30 meeting because 6 hours or 5 hours, depending if it's daylight savings time with East Coast, 3 hours for California is a little bit better. So I have dedicated periods of time, whether it's before work starting, which I need to be there at 7:15, so before work starts or lunchtime, or just planning out the use of my weekends better. Again, this holiday routine, which I was so thankful you could meet me on a Sunday, which was great. If there's a will, there's a way to make this work. And then when I get home, I normally get to eat dinner, relax for maybe 30 minutes, but really the relaxation part comes when I get to research more for the business. So I'll spend time at night. During last year, there was a period I was basically up from 5 o'clock in the morning and I wouldn't go to bed until like 10 or 11. And so there will be stretches like that. And then there will be stretches where I'm so burnt out that social media hasn't been updated. So it's a give and take and I'm navigating it right now. You're seeing live growth. So I'm not perfect. I wish I did more in social media. There's a lot of scheduling tools out there. It had nothing to do with time management there. It had to do with I'm just great in person. I'm great in front of crowds, but I am still working through my own personal thing with, being on TV or, being recorded and lots of, there's always an area to improve and to grow.
I will say social media is hard, even for me, and I have a podcast. Like I made like a 4th of July one and it took me like 50 times because I was just so bashful with the recording. So you're definitely not alone. Like I just feel like this newer generation is just so used to it. Like they're just growing up with it. And like me and you, we're just like, we're not, but we know it's necessary to like essentially grow. And I think because there's so many keyboard warriors that it's just like you don't want to put yourself out there, but you need to, and it's hard. I get it, girl. Like, but you're doing it, and I love that.
I'll tell you, I think that's why I initially started to go. I'm glad you mentioned this because maybe people need to hear this. I tried to go faceless, like with the brand, just being faceless, just being a brand by itself, like nobody really knows the face behind like, I don't know, maybe Lululemon, we could say that, we see the big L, and we're like, oh, they're fine, they're faceless, they do great, but that wasn't the case. When you really do research, you see that they're, how did it come about? You're like, there's a story behind it. And this story came about last year when I tried to really launch the product, at least the initial products. I realized, damned if I do, damned if I don't. The whole narrative of a lot more keyboard warriors were very vocal about why are women even here, blah, blah. I started to see a lot more. And I was like, you know what? I had tried to like not make this a whole like, woohoo, women brand. Hell no. I was trying to be like, this is a thoughtful, professional brand. This is just to enable our missions, right? And I realized that damned if you do, damned if you don't, you still need to put your story out there because one, I think women need the reassuring factor that, this isn't just commercialism at its finest. This is actually a purpose-built brand. And also the community that is out there that would support this brand. So I was missing because I wasn't putting my story out there. It was like some random brand that just populated social media. But where was the story? Where was the whole sense of purpose. Like, what was this going to evolve into? And so I have to say kudos to my god sister who kept pushing me the whole time, to make this a very personalized brand. I was very worried about legal stuff, but had ran through this with multiple different lawyers, as well as my own command, because they get a say if I get to do something like this as well. So it was very much like getting the approval in play, there's plenty of service members that have businesses and, they have rental properties that they rent out, it's part of their LLC. So I was like, there's no difference in if I want a company specifically for equipping women. In fact, kudos to me. If I ever get my hand slapped, for doing this business, I'll always take pride in the fact, like, no, I know why I'm doing this. There is a missing piece here.
So are you adding more face and trying to put your story more out there? Because
I am.
Okay, let's talk about it.
With women serve too. No, okay.
Yes,
so other areas are I'm starting to find a way to write some of my feelings on leadership, some of my feelings on where are we currently in the military community as far as like women who are active duty, maybe talking about some of the responsibility we have. So there's other organizations that I've been trying to work with and I've been working with well. Women Rock Wings is a great online magazine, a digital magazine, and they focus on many women aviation events. So that's one area. I've already written 2 articles for them. I'm getting involved with Fight to Fight, which is a documentary. 2 amazing women have put together. They're both retirees. And I've, written an article for them and I'm hoping to write one more as well as help them in the future with anything they need social media wise. So really just, working with other brands, seeking them out, seeking out communities, because I just want women to know that I'm here. That if there is something that they would like to see in my products that they're not seeing, this is open kimono. I'm building this for everyone. I want them to feel like they belong and literally just trying to serve my community, get my name out there.
So essentially you're creating immunity.
Yes.
So creating community.
Eventually, yeah. I'll aid everyone. I'll join as many communities as I can and support them. And maybe they'll find a community with Warvinas too. There's just so much on my plate.
It just seems like your business started out with an idea, but then is now coming out with more of a story. And it seems like you're gonna build this really good community of just women with military first responders that realize hey, we need this. You also mentioned networking, and I know as a business, you have to network. What would you say is the difference between networking and genuinely building a community, which even though you haven't claimed it yet, I know you are. I could just see it from the outside. So you're building a community, but how is networking different than just building this community?
I think networking is initially the first few steps, right? But anyone can network, show up to a conference, hand out cards, get some cards back. Really, it's in the relationship building, right? So the relationship part of building a community means we've networked, we've exchanged information, but now I'm seeing opportunities not only in the immediate, how you can benefit me, how I can benefit you, but hey, there's this other opportunity that I don't have anything to do with, but I know that it would best serve you. So seeing that level of community building, that's what that portion is right there, where you're just with Megan, who runs Women Rock Wings digital magazine, inviting her into opportunities, because at the end of the day, if she succeeds, I succeed, we all succeed. We don't just keep people stovepiped. It's a way different way to think about business in the traditional sense, that was really built, through a patriarchal format. This is more of matriarchal, where we see everyone gets to benefit and I will benefit too. Everyone gets a little bit of the pie.
I love that because I went to business school and one of the things that they would say is your network is your net worth. And they also talked about just how building a community and you have to niche it down. So you niched it. and then just kind of building a community, because people, and especially the generations now, they want to feel like they're a part of a cause
Yeah.
instead of just buying whatever, right? Like Tito's took off, if you're a vodka person like I am. They donate to dog shelters. And so if you're a dog lover, like you felt good purchasing Tito's and because you knew what it was benefiting.
Mm-hmm.
So how does stewardship mean to you as both a military officer and a founder?
So stewardship, I think, is a great way for us to measure leadership, how great a leader you are. I guess you could say I very much lean to servant leadership. And how does that transpose into business? I mean, it's an easy parallel because you're serving your customer, and in return, there's that the feedback, the feedback loop. They're returning to you. Same for leadership. Hey, ma'am, I know you're concerned about A, but B and C are taken care of as well. So these communities are like, hey, Warvinas is doing this, and maybe this is a product she wants to try. Maybe this is a product she wants to be invited to an event for. Or hey, my friend is looking for boot socks and I've referred her. I think stewardship is a great measure of what you're doing in the military or whatever organization you're a part of leading, and in business. So in business, I hope that they don't just look at me as boot socks and shirts, but they see, hey, she's trying to improve the next generation of women that are serving, and even the current generation that's serving. She's acknowledging that they're professionals by providing professional grade gear. She's also doing this while she's in active duty. So I hope there's a little bit of sympathy for the amount of tiredness. I think in every generation, you inherit a commitment to what you want to see the future generation do, right? I want to see the future generation not go into an exchange or a uniform shop and say, hey, why is there not many options for me? I want them to see an abundance of, Warvinas options and maybe other companies being showcased in the uniform shop as well. I can't be the only thing around, although I would love to be Queen Empress, boot socks. I would tell you, and competition is natural, and it's flattery if someone else was to do something like that as well. And even more reassuring because they saw the same need that I see.
So what do you think about with because we're talking like next generation now, like what do you think about the next generation of women serving? What do you hope is different?
I hope that they don't get so many of the situations you and I have received. The fact not getting thanked for your military service. I have the same situation with my dad, who's a retiree, and so they always think that he is the guy, but it's a moment of pride when my dad says, oh no, she's the boss here, so it's great, for him to stand up for me serving. If our brothers do that continuously, will open the minds of many other people, especially for the next generation. I'm seeing a lot more younger women in the services, which makes my heart so happy because I'm seeing now, instead of just being a small little percent of, the wardroom or the ship, roster, we're now close to, 40%, which is amazing, which is just going to help evolve, for them to see more women in uniform and be like, oh, I want to be like her one day, instead of saying, oh, wow, there's a woman one too. I hope to see a little bit less of that. But I think we should also be very proud to, that we are women serving. We are human beings that are serving our country for a better purpose. I hope that doesn't go away.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's so important. And right now you're in a leadership role and you are coming up eventually almost 20 years because you're 15 years in. So
Yeah.
what do you hope future leaders, like the people that you're leading right now, will continue building after your career?
I think the one thing I have been focused on right now is because I have 1 year left on this current tour before I have to pick orders for another place. And so it's kind of like that 1 year itch where you're just like, oh, I have so much more I want to do. And what do I want to leave this place in? And then, also all the hard work that I've done the last couple of years, I want to make sure it continues. And I think it's very important to stress care, right? A 4-letter word, CARE. You showing basic care is an operational advantage in so many manners. Care means I'm paying attention to detail. Care means that person knows that they have a obligation to me to be very transparent in communication, and making sure that we all communicate so that we can make the best decision possible and we don't slow down mission accomplishment because, there wasn't enough care to attention to detail, to communicating to the right people that are involved in the mission. That care takes an extra 10% or 20% of your energy, but it pays dividend in getting the mission accomplished right the first time without any hiccups, right? Taking care of your people and having them buy in, right? You train them, so you want them to stay in the military. Seeing that level of care, if I can just, leave that as an example for both the enlisted and the officers who I'm serving right now, I would just be so happy.
I love that because I think you're right. Like, it doesn't take that much time to just give a little bit extra, and it could mean literally the world for that person.
Yes. Yes. And not only that person, that mission, it's so much of having open door policy and so much of this person knows you care about that mission, so much so that they're going to be coming out of their own individual siloed work center and come talk to you and be like, hey, I know you guys are planning this, but just, a little FYI, this little thing's not right. And so, that wouldn't happen if they didn't think that you could do something about it, that you cared enough to do something.
Because you do talk a lot about like leadership, and I know you started this business, but after you retire, do you plan on doing something with like leadership coaching?
I don't know. I mean, I do this for free on the regular with my guys. I think that, I'm still going through a lot of great leadership roles right now that I could definitely share in the future. I'm dreaming, and I know that Warvinas will take off, that this company will be just much more than just boots, socks, and shirts, like you say. I hope to I'm dreaming of building that community that you said. I just don't know what it looks like. And I think investing in the next generation and also the current, workforce, I'm open to all the time. I think you make a good point there. I think it's great that a leader provides information when they tell you all their mess ups too. So I have a long list of those.
Okay, so let's talk that then. What is 2 things that you should do, 2 things you should not do?
Okay, at what stage? Or it doesn't matter.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Early stages?
Yeah, let's do early stages because you have to grow into a leader, right? So what are 2 things as you're growing into a leadership position or just trying to be a better leader? What are 2 things to do, 2 things not to do?
Okay, man. I hope my sailors one day, they take a look at this podcast because they're going to know exactly some things that I've done. Okay, so 2 things I would do is 1, get to know your people that you serve, and also the people that are your peers, right? Because your peers are going to help you, especially because you have to acknowledge you have limited knowledge in 1, your community, the platform you're in. You have limited experience just because you're brand new. That's typical, right? So knowing your sailors or soldiers or airmen and recognizing that they have so much value with education, right? And they are adults too, So many times young leaders come in, they're like, oh, I just took a class and I'm a great leader now. No, that's not the way it works. Which leads me to what you shouldn't do, which I definitely did. I had been on board freaking 2 months on the ship and I had quartermasters and they were amazing. I like to view it as we were on an amphib, so it was very much like the pirate mentality where it's like, we are the Navy, but we're a little rougher. And so I was so tired of going into unmotivated spaces. It wasn't like what I envisioned from all the documentaries I've seen, right? And so I come out, I form them up in a formation. This is so embarrassing. And I'm freaking 2 months in, and I'm not sure about this new Navy shit. I'm all about this old Navy shit. We need to go work together. Freaking buttercup theory. I had little butter bars and shit. It was so funny. And my sailors and I, still that group of my division, I love them so much, and they still hit me up all the time. And they're like, how's the new Navy? How's the old Navy doing? And it's really funny. You're going to have hiccups, and you're going to have big hiccups like that. But at the end of the day, they got to know me and got to know like I was genuinely just trying to make it a better place to work, better improve processes so that they didn't get frustration on their end. So I would say number one, get to know your people. Number two, get to know your peers. The thing not to do is to go in there like you know everything. I mean, I don't know if I did or not. And then another thing not to do is I got really scared of leadership so fast, so early. And I don't know if that was like an internal thing, like I had picked up somewhere else through other traumatic experiences, but I would try to figure out a problem fast or by myself instead of sharing it with leaders, right? And I think that right there can cripple success so much because you just want to look like you're perfect, all the answers, you're an officer, like that unexpected pressure of I should already know how to do this, like even though it's bothering me. And at the end of the day, whether you're officer or enlisted, you're both human beings and you're both probably experiencing that one unique instance for the first time. Leaders may not always have the answer, but they'll be there with you through it and they'll help provide guidance and advice to where you both can end up with a great solution at the end of the day. So those are my two good and my two bad.
No, I love it. I love it. Especially like the one of not thinking you know everything. Because I have seen that happen a lot with younger officers.
100%, yeah.
I had one like that, and it was he knew everything, and I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I think it's the ego, it's just learning to let go of the ego. And it wasn't until I realized the more you say you don't know and you trust your sailors and the more information comes to you, you learn. That's what the job is for, it's learning, not that you're hired because you know every single answer in a manual. No, it's like, oh, we all have, this is a very unique situation, and removing that ego is hard, very hard. But the moment you do, the moment you get the best answers.
Is there like a certain book that you have read and was like, oh, this is a really good leadership book?
It's called, what do you call this? I think it's called Don't Be an Asshole. I'll have to look at it.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. It was, I think, as a young officer, even though I think it was written in the world of business, it helped me realize you get so much further like not being an asshole. Doors are open to you. You're open to many more opportunities. Many more people will want to mentor you because you're pleasant to be around. I think when you see the lives, and you've seen it already in your time in the military, when you see the people that are just like unpleasant to work with, and then you see the people that are pleasant to work with, this group may get a little bit more jobs, like you said, task saturation, right? Because like asking these people to do it is rough, right? It's like not fun. But then the people that are easy to work with, they learn and grow so much faster because they're exposed to more opportunities. They're exposed to more communication. They are the ones getting more nurturing, right? And that's because these people over here, when you put out vibes that you don't want to be messed with or talk to, you're going to get that. But you're also crippling your own growth of knowing people, of knowing communication, of being open to opportunities that would never come your way normally. So yeah, I saw that. And I think I even got to benefit a little bit from being more amiable than some.
I love that. So if people had questions about leadership or your company or want to buy from you, how can people connect with you?
So I am on Instagram and I love to go through the direct messages for collaborations. I'd love to collaborate with you. Even if you don't have a brand, but you just want to follow along with Warvinas and its growth, I recommend Instagram. Now I'm also on Pinterest and YouTube and Facebook, but those are really what I consider like periphery accounts. My main account is Instagram. I am a millennial, So maybe I need to shift that to something else. But right now, Instagram's my favorite platform. So I'm on there. And then also they can reach me through the website. So I have, an area that they can subscribe to newsletter. In addition, they can always email me at hello@warvenas.com. That's listed on the website as well if they wanted to contact me. And yeah, my items are available on Warvinas for purchase, and everyone gets a lovely handwritten note for supporting me. Yeah, just because I'm thankful too. So I invite everyone to go on the journey with me. We'll see what happens.
And for those who are listening, what products do you have as of right now? Because I know you want to expand eventually, but what do you currently have?
Okay, so I would highly recommend for those, not even just in the military, but construction and firefighting. I really am in love with my full boot sock right now. It's got this amazing compression technology, and these are like super high, so they go up your calf, which is amazing. I've got the shorter ones, which in the Navy we have dual tone because sometimes you don't like getting that black, cloth or thread around your toes. It's gross. So I did make these. So these are a little short cut for those that are wearing a short booty. For my baby leaders out there, the girls that are just starting off, I actually had created a product through, I guess, my Divo year, and then I used it again during my department head years. But it's called, I don't know if you're allowed to say this on your podcast, but the No Bullshit Planner. So it's so easy for us to have, your notebook, and you're excited and you're writing down everything that you think you need to have notes on. But at the end of the day, are you moving the needle? Are you completing those tasks? This is super easy to have a one quick glance at that you're like, this person's admin, his separation paperwork is not finished, or I need to submit a fit rep, or hey, what's the status of some of my equipment that I'm maintaining? So it's all built about manning, training, and equipping so that you are still on track to get your stuff done. And as you fill these sheets out from week to week, what are you carrying from one sheet to the next? And have you been dragging your feet on accomplishing it? We get it. Missions can take over. You lose sight of things. But that can really bite the young leader in the butt when they're like, your service member is, 60 days out from leaving, but you did not follow up on the paperwork and a different mission took priority. That happens all the time. But it's super simple with a no bullshit planner to make sure that you're safe. And then for my girlies that work in buildings with security access, I have this really diesel, it's made out of like titanium cord here because I've broken so many of these because it was just thread before. But this is like just a handy dandy badge holder. And I know you're going to laugh at me because I'm in Hawaii right now. But I have short sleeve shirts, of course. But right now I'm in love with my long sleeve shirt. And this comes in all the different colors for the services. A high neckline, but the long sleeve shirt. And it's heavier weight because going into a building for 8 or 10 hours of straight AC, it's cold. And, it's an AC building, not because of the personnel. It's an AC building because of your computer servers that are there that will overheat or whatever equipment you have in your space. So being able just to have a long sleeve underneath, that's not like, there's this weird fabric we have with our turtlenecks in the Navy that's like this weird polyester blend. I'm like, no, this is a nice cotton and you could easily go in and out of a building and feel just fine.
Honestly, I love that because I was intel, so it was always freezing. I was always so cold and I would have these layers, but then it had to be in regs. And you're right, it's like this weird, it was weird. So I love that. As a prior intel, I would have definitely loved to have that.
So thank you.
Yes. So I'm going to add all of that into the show notes. So if you guys are interested in purchasing or connecting or checking out her website and or connecting on Instagram, please look into the show notes and connect with her. Hillary, thank you so much for being here today. But
thank you for having me.
It was such a good conversation, but I want to leave with one last thing that you hope the listeners take home with.
Okay, I'm going to give you 2, which is care and stewardship.